and the federal government to introduce a mobile court to address SGBV and other vices. On the foreign scene, Russia seeks to rejoin UN's Human Rights Council. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The world news at 6 begins with the ongoing legal tussle between President Bola Tinubu and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar over his Chicago State University academic records, taking a new twist after a self-acclaimed classmate of President Tinubu's, Olajide Adeniji, swore to an oath that he knew him. Adeniji testified in the United States District Court that he knows and contested against Tinubu as president of the Accounting Society Club at the Department of Business Administration and Accounting in the same alma mater. The development is coming 2 weeks after a public affairs analyst, Durojaye Ogunsoya, also claims to be a classmate to the Nigerian president. Ogunsoya, who featured on TVC's breakfast show this morning, justified that they both graduated from the Department of Accounting and Business Administration in 1979 at the same university. In the oath taken on September 23 at the Northern District of Illinois Court in Chicago, Adeniji swore to an affidavit that he was familiar with the same Tinubu who is the current president of Nigeria. He swore that he also ran in a closely contested race against President Bola Tinubu for the leadership of Accounting Society Club of the Department of Business Administration and Accounting. He also affirmed that he recognized and knows the person who attended Chicago State University with is the same person who is now president in Nigeria. He therefore declared under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. You will recall that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, had secured an application for Chicago State University to make the president's academic records available to his legal team. Meanwhile, the governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, has threatened to expose the federal government official who allegedly held secret meetings with some bandit groups in the state. In the wake of student abduction in the Federal University Gusau, the governor accused some federal government officials of allegedly holding secret negotiations with bandit groups in the state. Governor Lawal, in a statement by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Suleiman Idris, said the move was undermining his kinetic resolve to stamp out banditry in the state. The governor said, and I quote, "We have facts and evidence on what had transpired between these agents of the federal government and the bandits during the negotiations in several places across Zamfara," end quote. Meanwhile, the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, has asked the Zamfara state government to stop peddling rumors that the federal government is negotiating with bandits. The acting director of press and public relations in the Ministry of Defense, Atari Hope, made this known in a statement today. The defense minister said, contrary to the claim, the federal government is working assiduously to ensure that the students of the Federal University Gusau and other abductees return home safely. The minister said that the allegation is false and misleading, as the ministry has not mandated anyone or any group to negotiate on behalf of the federal government. He also said that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had given marching orders to the military and other security agencies to ensure the release of those who were abducted. He said that the order of the president has started yielding results, as 13 of the abducted students and 3 others regained freedom on Monday, adding that the feat was achieved through the professional efforts of the military. In another statement of response today, the Zamfara state governor insisted that he had evidence to back up his claim. He added that the minister should have conducted a thorough investigation before discrediting the state government. Now let's take a listen to Barrister Eze Eluche speaking on this development earlier today on VOP TV this morning.
This crop of rulers we have now, I don't call them leaders, they are rulers. They are the same crop who told us that any attack on Boko Haram is an attack against the North. They are the people who, when in the era when Borno was a no-go area to government, this crop of rulers took a walk down the streets of Maiduguri in the middle of the attacks by terrorists. So you will see it's like they know themselves. That is my own view of this. They know themselves. I really pity the Zamfara state governor, Dauda, His Excellency Dauda. Why I say this is this. The current Minister of State for Defense, Matawale, is the person the Governor Dauda defeated in the immediate past elections.
Okay.
So, and this is the man who is now responsible for this meeting with terrorists, in quotes. What Dauda is actually telling the world is, look what's going on. The federal government is meeting with our killers. And the news is that he's appealing to who? You are appealing to the same ministers who are meeting with these terrorist elements. You see, what this points out, what it leads to, is the fraudulent nature of the Nigerian Constitution. It goes to the root of it. A constitution that calls a state governor the chief security officer of the state, and that state governor does not have any control of even a corporal in any of the forces with arms, and you call him the chief security officer of the state. When there is crisis, you call on him, you lampoon him with blame, and he has no control. The ADC of the governor of any state is not answerable to the governor. It's answerable to the IG of police. The IG can withdraw your ADC and put another person who you don't even like. It's only courtesy that it's okay, take somebody. So the issue that is being brought to the fore is not just security. It's the fundamentals, the fraudulent nature of our Nigerian Constitution.
Now joining me to discuss this and the other issues on the World News at 6 this evening, we have Mr. Awa Omiko of the Sunday Editorial Desk. Good evening, Mr. Omiko.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. It's always a pleasure to have you right here on the World News at 6. Mr. Omiko, let's quickly jump into what we have for the evening on our news bulletin. You just listened to Barrister Eze Eluche speaking on a development, but I'd like to come back to that. Let's start from here, where another supposed classmate of President Tinubu's at the Chicago State University came out to testify in a U.S. court. That was 3 days ago on September 23rd, that he was a classmate of the president, and in fact that he ran against him for presidency of the Accounting Society Club at the Department of Business Administration and Accounting, and the same alma mater that they were in the same university in 1979. He swore an oath and he declared under penalty of perjury that what he said is true and correct. In many quarters, this will be regarded as a welcome development, but it still begs so many questions. And one of them is the question that has been asked before: why now? Is this really a case of so much ado about nothing? After so much, brouhaha, after so much dust has been raised over this issue of the president's certificate, is it genuine? Is it not? Did he really attend this university or did he not? Chicago State University shifting blames. The president's, legal counsel as well, doing all that they can. Why is this coming out now? We had someone come out about 2 weeks ago saying that he was a classmate of the president. Why did it have to get to this extent before these people will come out and speak? Also, should we expect, more people to come out? And many of them, all these names are Nigerian names. If we get someone from a different, would we say, nationality, or someone with a very different perspective that we may say it's not interested in whether the president's certificate is genuine or not, will this stamp the genuinity of the case? Really, at this point, what is going on?
Well, I think all these things are just what can be described as afterthoughts in law. And all is just to make sure we legalize illegality. And as a whole, nothing needs to be said and investigated. That's nothing. Hello?
I'm with you, Mr. Omiko. I'm with you.
How about the ID card? How about the matric number? How about the brochure that when you actually finish school, there'll be a place where you're going to be looking out? Does the school not provide all that? You see, there are so many to be said about the character of Tinubu. And it's quite unfortunate that the more we try to say all this, the more we are giving them the answers, clue to what that needs to be done to legalize the illegality. It's a criminal act. And he's not the first person. It's only that the Nigerian situation has gone haywire, that we don't even regard integrity to be anything anymore. And it is a very bad legacy. Buhari Gate, there was a case of a Buhari Gate. We all knew about it, and we all knew what happened. That was equally the case of Evans. And we all in Nigeria, and there have been other cases like that. So why is this too difficult for us to solve? It's not a naughty issue anyway. It's just that we have just decided to play at the gallery, and if nothing is done to it, you see, we're going to get more of the challenges by tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko, for your submission. Now, still on this issue, there is a question that I asked. You've spoken about how this they're trying to, legalize illegality, and is this a case, like I said before, of much ado about nothing? What are we going to see coming out of this case by the end? Will it be swept under the carpet, or will there be a shocking revelation?
Well, I don't say the shocking revelation. You're going to see it's going to be thrown out of court. When court will say we have decided on this, and you are just here to waste the court time. Just like other cases, the way other cases went, that is how this is going to go too. Because all these things, if you keep on going, it's still the same. We are rehearsing the same thing that they said, and just to be, as I said, giving it illegality. You see, the case, we are still not yet true. We are still not yet fair at getting a solution. How about calling that school? And it's okay, if truly this is that, can we have a docket, that's what is called docket university, that tells you everything about a student and its studentship? We have there. And those things are there. Which courses did he do? When did he do that? What are just his level? How did he pass? Did he pass or did he fail? No, we are not interested in his passing or in his failure. But what we are interested in is his studentship. But the docket should be able to tell you everything about that student. Not to be leaving the university, because it has taken long for the university to now respond. And all that could amount to afterthoughts, which in a way is another perjury. And we know what that means in law. And by so doing, there's a question tag to the integrity and to the authenticity of what the university is telling us now. That is just funny. There's nothing new is going to come out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko. Let's quickly talk about the Zamfara state situation. Tragically, this is one place where terrorism and banditry is still holding sway. Recently, students of the Federal University in Gusau were abducted, and right now, the Zamfara state governor has come out to say that some federal government officials were involved in secret meetings with the bandits, but the Minister of State for Defense has come out to deny these allegations, saying that no one and no group has been authorized to meet with bandits on behalf of the federal government. The question is this: the governor is one person who is also called the chief security officer of the state. He's the executive governor. He is meant to know what is going on in his state, in the state that he governs. Right now, if the governor comes out to say, he said, and I quote, "We have facts and evidence on what had transpired between these agents of the federal government and the bandits during the negotiations in several places across Zamfara state." Can we say the governor does not know what he's saying, or who really is the liar in this case? If the federal government is meeting with bandits, as the governor of Zamfara state has said, what kind of message is this sending out to the citizenry? One would think, or rather, many critics have said that, there should be maybe the application of the use of force to let the bandits know that they cannot win over the federal government, who should have more power. In this situation, people's lives are at stake. What is going on?
You see, the issue is that they are playing politics with Nigerian security. Government, there are lots of saboteurs in the system. Government itself is speaking from both mouths. Once upon a time in this country, those that represented government actually came out to tell us what the Boko Haram people were telling them. Of which one of such people happens to be a former president, you can see what actually happened. And now, it should not be out of tune, or maybe it should not be something like the Zamfara State lying that the federal government is actually in contact with this Boko Haram. Government is still not yet serious at solving it, and I strongly believe that because of people making money out of the situation, they're making everybody making money out of the situation, and that is why the things fail a lot. Now, if you compare the strength and the way the federal government is handling the security situation in the southeast and the way it is handling it in the north, they are not the same. They are not the same. Look at the way they're actually killing people and destroying and maiming and even destroying property of those not even of IPOP. But over there, and look at the terrorists, the bandits in the north. Look at the way they're handling them with kids' gloves. As if they are bigger than the country. No, until government is serious, nothing will be done. It is quite unfortunate that those students have actually been kidnapped, and they're going to use them to claim ransom. It is quite unfortunate. And this is one thing they will still be doing. And this is a way to tell Tinubu's government that if nothing is done to save those girls and bring them back, this same bandits will still come back to do more harm. So it is an issue of one government has gone, now let us see how this thing will happen. The bandits are testing the waters and they will come again. If the government of Tinubu is not fair at them, and this is the right time we should do it. Let us remove all the saboteurs. Let us remove all the informants, and besides, why is our security intelligence? Where are they? The agencies should harmonize themselves and look for a way to actually make sure that this last act is last act of the system once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Omiko. Just before you go, let's quickly, briefly talk about the ongoing talks between Labour and the federal government. After meeting virtually, after having a NEC meeting, a National Executive Council meeting virtually today, the NLC and the TUC leadership have agreed to go on an indefinite nationwide strike, grounding the economy on October 3rd, saying they've labelled, the government as a failure for failing to put policies in place to ease Nigerian suffering after the removal of subsidy. There's been talks back and forth. There was a 2-day strike. There was a 21-day ultimatum issued to the federal government. Will this particular strike make any difference?
It's a lame duck. The NLC has turned to lame duck. Nothing will come out of it. Nothing will come out of it. Already, Nigerian citizens are too rich. We have bled so much that any little thing, if there is not taken, the crisis will go beyond what NLC is thinking of. So they should not further push us to the wall. Our naira is gradually turning to tissue paper, and yet nothing is being done. There are so many people that are not under the payment of employees of the federal and state government. So people are now beginning to see labor as not being serious on its own. If I'm on self-employed, now what has the strike got to do with me? Why did we allow things to degenerate to this level before acting? The time labor should have acted is gone and passed. So labor shouldn't ask us to our injuries. And again, if you look at labor on its own, labor is divided. Tinubu does not classify Labour as an arm of Labour Party. And that arm stands for instance, the UTC, the UC, and not even the Labour Union are not even on the same page. They are all speaking from different parts of their mouth. And is that the Labour Union that will stand for the progress of the country? The answer remains no. Until Labour is united, and until the people know what they want, and until they can look at government face to face and say, yes, this is what it is, and this is how it's going to be done. Nothing that the system will cut amount to waste of effort, waste of resources, and waste of energy. And besides, government is saying we are doing something. No, the government is still slow at doing something. But they should give government time to re-strategize and actually come out with a policy. If that time frame fails, then Labour can act. But for now, there's nothing. I see Labour achieving nothing. It's going to be an amount to waste of time, waste of energy, waste of resources, and even loss of life. Please, let Labour actually go back to his drawing table and re-strategize. While government goes back to and re-strategize and make sure that things are better for the Nigerian people. Thank you.
Thank you so dearly, Mr. Awamiko, for joining me on the World News at 6 this evening. I really appreciate your input.
Thank you.
In another development, the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) and the Trade Union Congress (TUC) have decided to begin an indefinite nationwide strike on October 3rd as a result of what the labour unions have labelled as the government's failure to put policies in place to ease Nigerians' suffering after the removal of the subsidy on premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol. The national president of the NLC, Joe Ajaero, and the national president of the TUC informed the NEC members at the virtual National Executive Council meeting via Zoom today that the meeting had been conducted to discuss next steps. Ajaero stated that it was decided that the two centers should collaborate in order to communicate their position to the government. The NLC had given the federal government a 21-day ultimatum to implement the demands they asked for, which ended last week. Meanwhile, the Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, has said on Monday that the Nigerian government is set to introduce mobile courts to address cases of sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV, and other vices in the country. The mobile courts will be part of a broader effort to reform the country's approach to SGBV and other crimes against women and girls. Under the new system, victims can report cases to the police and then be taken directly to a mobile court for justice to be served. The minister said the mobile courts will help to speed up justice for victims of SGBV and other crimes. In a tragic development, gunmen suspected to be kidnappers have abducted a student of Isa Mustafa Agwai Polytechnic in Lafia, Nasarawa State. The student, named Ajaka, is a national diploma 2 student of Science Laboratory Technology. The incident reportedly happened on Monday night, with some students of the institution also sustaining a series of gunshots. However, the exact number of students injured cannot be ascertained at the moment. You are currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Now on to news on the foreign scene. Russia is seeking to rejoin the United Nations Human Rights Council in an election that will be seen as a key test of its international standing. Russia was expelled from the UN's preeminent human rights body last April after its forces invaded Ukraine. But now Russian diplomats are seeking to get their country re-elected to the council for a fresh 3-year term. The vote will take place next month. In the document, Russia promises to find adequate solutions for human rights issues and seeks to stop the council from becoming an instrument which serves political wills of one group of countries, referring to the West. Diplomats said Russia was hoping to regain some international credibility after being accused of human rights abuses in Ukraine and within its own borders. The latest evidence of those abuses was presented to the Human Rights Council on Monday in a report from its Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine. Eric Mose, chairman of the commission, said there was continuing evidence of war crimes, including torture, rape and attacks on civilians. A separate report 2 weeks ago by the UN's Special Rapporteur for Russia, Mariana Katzarova, said the human rights situation in Russia had also significantly deteriorated, with critics of the invasion subjected to arbitrary arrest, torture, and ill treatment. Russia was suspended from the Human Rights Council in April 2022, with 93 members of the UN General Assembly voted in favor, 24 against, and 58 abstaining. In its position paper, Russia blames the United States and its allies for losing its membership. And that's it in the world news at 6. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that another Tinubu Chicago University classmate has testified in a U.S. court. The Zamfara state governor has threatened to name federal government officials involved in secret meeting with bandits as the defense minister denies the allegations. NLC and TUC prepare for total shutdown of Nigeria's economy with indefinite strike on October 3. And the federal government will introduce mobile courts to address SGBV and other vices. On the foreign scene, Russia is seeking to rejoin the United Nations Human Rights Council. And that is a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Ijeoma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP903FM. For coverage of your live events and brand news mentioned on our news bulletins, do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good evening and thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for the Evening Rush with Precious coming up next.